Hi, how are you doing? This is Amy Hamilton, the project manager, author of The Project Manager Life is the Project. I am so excited to be back with Saeed and the team today. Today, we are going to be discussing interviewing tips. I'm going to focus it a little bit today on project management. And as project managers, we all know that the project has a life cycle. And part of the project life cycle means that we have to go to the project closing phase. And what does that mean? That means that every project has a beginning, every project has an end. Well, when that project ends, what are you going to do? You are going to have to go out and get new jobs as project managers. To remind everybody how this works, whenever we have one of these sessions, I'll be looking through the page, seeing as you scroll through if you have comments, questions, things that you want me to focus on. More than happy to address those issues. So I'm going to go ahead and get started for you guys. And the first thing I want to talk about is a follow-on from the last session we had. So we talked about how do you build an amazing resume. So you want to build that resume or CV, and you want it to focus on your strengths, you want it to focus on different activities that you've done, the successes that you've had, and really build those up. So you did an awesome CV, awesome resume, now you're in front of the hiring official, they've given you that call, and it is time to interview. And what does that mean? The first thing that you should do when you get that call from the hiring manager is start preparing. And when I say start preparing, I mean really get an idea. Who is the hiring official? What's the company about? Make sure you find out who their current leadership is. Make sure you have the most current information as possible. And you really want to study that. Hiring managers like it when you know about their organization. I once had a guy tell me, oh, I don't really care about what the job is, I just want to come to Germany. That is not the guy I'm going to hire. I want to hire somebody who says, I know what you do, I understand what your organization does, I understand what your company does, I am passionate about it, and here's some experiences that I've had that I can bring to the table and add to your company. And every single project manager, we know what it's like. Project ends, you need to get a new job. So when you're talking to a senior program manager or portfolio manager, they're aware of why you left your last job. So there's no shame in saying, hey, my project ended and it was like super successful. So you know what? I need a new job because my project was great and now it's over in the ops guys and they're doing the day-to-day, or maybe it was just a project that when it ended, there's no follow-on and now you're looking for something else to do. So make sure that you're putting that out there. I mean, you're a project manager, right? The next thing you want to do is use your social media network. How many people right now watching this video? Those are contacts. Those are people you can say, hey, guess what? Did you see I'm looking for a job in this area? Do you happen to know the hiring manager? Do you know anything about the company? What I can tell you is your social network can be amazing, especially on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a really, really powerful tool when it comes to actually looking for jobs. I once found out my hiring manager and I were 1 degree of separation away from 6 different people. I got to the end of the interview, and when he said, hey, what questions do you have of me? I said, hey, how do you know so-and-so? And he immediately went, oh, you know so-and-so. I said, yes, I also saw that you know so-and-so. Oh, we just had the best time. And next thing you know, within 2 hours, I was getting a call going, hey, we called you references. We know them all, and you have the job. And I was like, wow, that is like super exciting, right? So leverage that social network. Find out, maybe you don't know the hiring manager, but maybe one of your fellow coworkers knew the job. So this is really what you want to do. The next thing that you want to do is practice your interviewing skills. Public speaking, interviewing can be absolutely terrifying. One of the most horrible interviews I ever had, I was in front of a panel. It was my first time doing a panel interview. There was 3 people, and you had to divide your attention between the 3 people. And I will tell you, I was just a hot mess. I was an absolute wreck when I did that. And I realized, okay, I don't have this skill set. I am not one of those people who am good at just impromptu speaking. And I was like, what am I going to do? I joined Toastmasters International. You can join Toastmasters. You can practice with a friend. The nice thing that I found about Toastmasters is they have sessions where you actually do impromptu speaking, and they will ask you questions that you have no idea how to answer. And this really builds up your confidence, because if you can do this in a room full of strangers, when there's like 10 or 15 or 50 or 100 people looking at you, then you can really build this up. And this way, when you're in front of an interview and it's a panel of 3, you're like, oh my gosh, this is only 3 people. And when it's one-on-one, you're like, I've got this. I know exactly how to handle these interview questions. So really, it's a case of practice makes perfect. So I really want to leave you guys with this number one tip, and the first one is prepare, prepare, prepare. You cannot be over-prepared. Do your homework. The next thing is style. Some people are going to tell you wear a navy suit and make sure that you have a white shirt with it with a red power tie. You know what? There's going to be 5 other guys who come in there who have on a navy blazer with a white shirt and a red power tie. This is not going to distinguish you. You're just going to be one more person in the crowd. And what we're looking for is people who are creative. We are not looking for drones. We are not looking for clones. We are looking for you guys to be out there, to be interesting, to be dynamic. We want to know, what are you going to bring to our project? I don't need the same old, or I just hire internally. If I'm looking externally, I am looking for somebody who's bringing something different. On the same time, though, if I am looking internally and you're against people I know, what's going to distinguish you? What's going to make you somebody who goes, oh, that's the person that we should hire? And the number one thing I will tell you, it is important in every single aspect of your life, whether it's interviewing, whether it's reporting on your project status, anything, you need to walk in there with confidence. There is nothing more important. And when you walk into that room and you are confident, it makes every difference in that interview. You need to walk in there like you own that room, not arrogant. You don't want to come across like as, hey, I'm doing you a favor by showing up. This is not what you want to do. You want to walk into that room with a confidence, with a sense of pride, with a sense of self, knowing who you are, where are you in your career, and what skill set are you bringing? Because you know, hey, I'm going to add value to your team. This is going to be a great relationship. And you want to say, hey, I know how to build a team. I know how to work together. I've worked with diverse groups of people. I've worked with people all over the world, and I know how to bring them together. And this is what I'm bringing. This is what I'm contributing to you. Whatever your skill set is. Maybe you're like, hey, you know what? I am an awesome engineer, and this is what I'm contributing. This is what you want to do. You want to walk in there, you want to own it, and you want to make sure that they know, hey, this person, they're confident. Because if you're not confident in the interview, how are you going to be confident in the job? And what about now when I have to put you in front of the board of directors or other key stakeholders and talk about the project? You want to make sure that you go in there confident. And the next thing, like I said, we do not want drones. Be original. And when I say be original, it's the fine line with the other side of that, which is be authentic. Be who you are. Don't come in there. Don't go in and say, oh my gosh, I need to come in here and fit into this organization. If you have to try too hard to fit in, this is not the organization for you. Maybe it's not even a job that you want. I once left a job interview and I was shaking the guy's hand and he was shaking mine, and we were just both like, oh, I am not a good fit for this organization. I'm not somebody they should hire. And I'm really, really glad, because they actually hired a friend of mine who was a much better fit. Somebody who wasn't, wearing pink all the time, and somebody who was a bit more down to earth, somebody who was much more comfortable in that environment where maybe my personality would have been right. On the other hand, I know there's lots of jobs that I fit into where they said, hey, the reason we hired you is because you just came in here and we could tell you were something different. And you have to know who you are, and you have to know who that organization is. What you don't want to do is get the project, get the job, and realize 6 months in, go, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Why am I here? If you get that feeling from the beginning, there's more jobs out there. There are so many projects out there. And as project managers, we have the picking and choosing. This is such a hot career field right now. If you have your certifications, and we've talked about how to get your certs before, how to get your PMP, your CAPM, your Prince 2, whatever it is, go out there, get those certifications. Go get a master's certificate in project management. Study project management. There's plenty free online courses that you can take. So you want to really leverage those resources. And you want to go in there and you want to make sure that you've got style, you've got the confidence, you've got the originality, and you are authentic. And that is the next step that's going to help you. So first step was make sure you do your homework. Next step is know your style. The last step is really about technique. And you can do this during your practice phase and is so incredibly valuable. It is called the STAR technique. The first thing is the situation. The next thing is the task. then the action and the result. So when you get asked a question, you want to answer in this format. So when they come up and they say, you're in front of the interview board and they ask one of those tough questions to you, like, tell me a time that you had a project fail. Oh, that's a horrible question, you know, and it's just such a common thing they ask when you interview. And you can say, hey, here's the situation. I was hired onto a project. The project was brand new, but it didn't have a lot of stakeholder buy-in. The project sponsor wasn't completely committed. And you describe that situation. What is the organization like? And what's the task? Maybe your task was to take a project that didn't have a lot of stakeholder development, and it was going to be an IT project changing existing IT into a service that people didn't want and didn't really feel there was a need for. Ooh, that's not a good task at all. No wonder this project failed, right? And then what's the actions you took? Maybe you say how you try to get consensus. Maybe you talk about how the project was underfunded and what you tried to do and the result. And one of the things that you have to do is a fine line here is you want to give the result, but you don't want to sugarcoat it. Because you know what? One of the things I look for as a hiring manager is what did you learn from that failure? So you want to say, hey, the result is, you're right, I had a project and this project was not successful. What I really learned is I don't take on projects now unless the sponsor is 100% committed, unless the resources are there, or I know I will be able to garner the resources, because I've realized this is the number one thing I need is a strong project sponsor, and that project sponsor being committed is going to make sure that I'm successful as a project manager. Bam, I've taken that whole thing, I've discussed, like, hey, I was humble, I failed, I get it, but success, now I know what to do for the future. You also get to ask those questions about, hey, name a time that you had a project that was over budget, and what did you do? And maybe this is a time where you can tell a rock star story, and you can say, hey, guess what? I was in this project, it was behind schedule, and what it was this Windows 10 migration, and I was the project manager that took over in the middle of it. We were behind, we didn't have enough servers, we didn't have the infrastructure, they hadn't even considered the HVAC in the room, so I had to deal with all these issues. So the task I set myself, I immediately re-looked at the project timeline, re-streamlined it, reached out to the multiple outside vendors, pulled it all together, action. Bam, here you go. So once I actually developed it, I made those things happen. I constantly kept the board informed so that they knew exactly how over schedule we were. We were able to make some of these up together. The result was we ended up only being 6 weeks behind instead of 6 months behind, and project success for everybody, and we were able to be in compliance in time. So you want to make sure that you're pulling all this together. So this STAR technique is powerful. You can use it for any story. And what you want to do is, back to that beginning, the first step is you want to rehearse this. You want to go out with friends, with some colleagues. Maybe you're wrapping up the end, you're at the project close phase, and you realize there's a group of you who are going to be out there looking for a new job, looking for new projects to be part of. Practice on each other. Get together and say, hey, you know what, we're going to be looking for new jobs. So why don't we practice some interview techniques? There's this great STAR technique I learned about. Let's talk about from this project, the goods, the bads. What can I apply into it? What's the situation? What's the task? What's the action? What's the result? And if you use the STAR, you're going to be shining like a star on your next interview. That's really all I have for you guys today. What I want to remind you is do your homework, embrace your personal style, and just shine like a star. I'm going to go ahead through some of these questions here. On specific questions for certifications, what I think we should do is have a couple sessions on what certifications are hot right now in the marketplace, what the trends are. I am not as familiar with some of the construction side, and what I would like to do is reach out with Saeed and the team and talk to them, because they're much more on the construction side than I am. My background is IT, and I would not want to give you guys any bad advice. For the IPM, it's a good organization. I don't think it's nearly as strong as the Project Management Institute right now. When I'm looking for an organization, I am generally looking for somebody who's PMI. But I don't think the IPMA is a bad organization. I don't think it's recognized as much. CCM, that's a great question. That's the one I'm going to get with Saeed and find out about. Thanks a lot, Steve, for your feedback. I really appreciate everyone's time. You guys are absolutely Fantastic. And what I'm going to do next time in 2 weeks when we have this session is we're going to talk about, okay, great. So you did your CV, awesome CV. Now you've done your interview. You've just been congratulated. Now it is your first day as a project manager on a new job. What are you going to do? This is going to be some exciting stuff. Thank you everybody for your time. This is Amy Hamilton, the project manager. Life is a project. Appreciate all you guys.